Welcome back to Movies TV Mad. You can follow me on X at Movies TV Mad and on Instagram and on Threads at Movies TV Mad X. A very warm welcome to Monday's edition of the Movies TV Mad Daily. I'd love to know in the comments down below what you think the job and responsibility of a movie, TV and entertainment critic in general. When we're talking about movies, television, the latest song by Taylor Swift, anything. What do you think the responsibility of that critic is? What do you think a critic is? What do you think a review should be? I think that's interesting. The reason the idea of a critic was ever put forward or invented, so you, the consumer, can be informed of all the kind of moving parts so you can make an informed decision whether to consume or not. They simply don't do that anymore. They either like something or they hate something. And if they hate something, they're going to make sure that you don't watch it. They believe they have the influence and power to garner your decision one way or the other. I don't believe the critic is trusted enough anymore. And, with good reason. Why should they be trusted? Because they have become utterly corrupt. Like the entertainment industry, there isn't a kind of organisation, an unbiased organisation to police these people. For example, and someone in the comments down below can correct me, I think Grace Randolph is a verified film critic on Rotten Tomatoes. How the fuck can an unbalanced individual like Grace Randolph be a verified film critic? Somebody please tell me. Now, I've said before, I follow Grace Randolph on YouTube. I enjoy some of her videos. But to take that from allowing her to be a verified critic shows you what, a corrupt system, a wrong system it is, because they're not informing you of all the moving pieces. They're not trying to give you all the information so you can make an informed decision whether you're going to consume or not consume anything anymore. And the YouTube critics are even worse, because unless a film or a television show kind of has their ideology or doesn't have any ideology at all, any political ideology or the ideology that they like, they're going to tell you not to watch something. So no one is doing their job in terms of movie and TV reviews anymore. No one. Everyone is coming at a slant, at a bias. But the whole point of a review, of an entertainment critic from the very beginning, was it was supposed to be a service for you, the consumer. You are not given that service anymore. Look at early reactions, right? They let them have early screenings. They let them have lovely chairs. They invite them to the best cinemas to see a screening early. So I don't think they're actually told to be nice and positive. Maybe they are, but you'll notice most of those, initial early reactions are very rarely negative. Best movie, TV, streaming show ever! Oh my God, the cinematography! The usual shit we get on social media. It's a shill fest. And it's triggering because they're being disingenuous. And you get all these positive reactions. And then when you go and fucking see the thing and you think it's fucking shit, you fucking lied to me. It's an opinion. But that's not your fucking job. You have these early reactions because you're maybe a journalist or a verified critic or some fucking YouTuber who created a caricature that entertained us enough that you became successful, right? And literally anyone can get into an early screening these days. It's not exactly a trusted critic. Because the industry want positive reactions, right? Now, I kind of went on to ex-Twitter yesterday and just I decided to fantasize about having my own studio and what I would do with it. And one of the things I would do is kind of embrace critics to be as honest with my studio's work as possible, because I think it's very important for young actors to experience the adulation, but to experience the negative reactions to their work as well. Otherwise, they're going to live in an echo chamber and they won't accept any negative reaction to their work. And that isn't good for the craft at all. But the industry don't want that anymore. So you've got this situation now where everything is coming at a slant. Let's look at the metric system. Rotten Tomatoes, for example. These verified critics know exactly what to say to give a movie or TV show or streaming show a good number, right? A good rating on Rotten Tomatoes, or they know what to say to give you a bad Rotten Tomatoes rating. Not just from their score themselves and their review, but kind of the final result. They all know exactly what they're doing. It's utterly corrupt. Some of us have been accused of being insane for saying some studios allegedly might pay some verified critics or influence them, or even have their own verified critics within these metric sites to make sure things come out as positive. How can you explain some of the Rotten Tomatoes scores? For example, Wonder Woman 84 doesn't have a very good Rotten Tomatoes scores right now, but on release, it was the right movie at the right time. But that's just code for a fucking crap movie, isn't it? And you know, it's so timely. Is it? What's so timely about Wonder Woman 84? I mean, we were all locked in our homes because of COVID at the time. What's so fucking timely about Wonder Woman 84? A film that didn't even represent the 80s accurately. It's just some extreme leftist woman's perception of the 80s and 80s men. 80s men were really, really bad business people, con artists, right? They're all like Donald Trump. That's what she was saying. It's a shit movie and they gave it a good review, right? Or a coded review that looked like positivity. Let's look at Russell T Davies' 4 not so special Doctor Who specials we saw last year, including the first episode for Ncuti Gatwa. Now, interestingly, Ncuti Gatwa said in an interview that white mediocrity is being celebrated. Well, let's look at this for a minute. Don't have a go at him, no. Shake his hand, give him a hug, agree with him. Because his boss, a white showrunner writer, wrote 4 mediocre specials for Doctor Who. So, yes, you're right, Ncuti. And the critics weren't honest. In their reviews, right, this is my point. Instead of saying, me as a critic, I liked it, right? Them saying that, right? They could say that, that's fine. If you like something, you like something, that's fine. But then saying, are these 4 specials as good as Russell T Davies' original work on his original era of Doctor Who? No. In that parameter, you have to be honest as a critic and say, they're not as good. Because they can't be as good because Russell T Davies hasn't got complete creative control now on Doctor Who. Disney have. That's why he himself even admitted he gets notes from fucking Disney because they're basically paying for the thing to get made. Were critics honest about those 4 not-so-specials? No, they were disingenuous and they didn't give you all the working pieces. They didn't give you all the information so you can make a decision for yourself. Because they are here, sorry, there's a fly trying to get in my mouth and I don't want to be the old woman. Do you remember that rhyme? The old lady who swallowed the fly. No, go away. Anyway, I've either swallowed it or it's gone away. Anyway, back to what we're talking about. So, again, I've given you an example of how disingenuous they are. Then we look at how they review Zack Snyder's films, right? So they recently have given us reviews for Rebel Moon 1 and now Rebel Moon 2, The Scargiver. So they've told you these are two very bad movies, blah, 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 and they've given you reasons, probably good reasons why they don't like those movies. But they haven't told you the very reason those movies could never work as a 2-hour piece of work. When I did my Rebel Moon review, even though I'm a big fan of Zack Snyder, I gave you an unbiased review. But I said the reason why Rebel Moon, The Scargiver, isn't a good film, and a lot of people don't like the first one, even though I thought they did a better job with slimlining, a 6-hour movie into a 2-hour movie with the first movie rather than the second movie. I gave you the honest reason for that. Because these films were made to be 4, 5, 6-hour movies, and you can't slimline a movie that's meant to be so long. Right, imagine the 10 Commandments, it's about 4 or 5 hours. Gone with the Wind, 4 hours. Imagine slimlining movies that were supposed to be that long into 2-hour package movies. It's not going to fucking work, is it? It's not rocket science. I'm honest. I'm rough and ready. I shout a bit, I swear a bit, but you get honesty from me. You know I'm going to give you all the information. I am never, as a content creator, well, you're not successful. I know. Nobody watches me. I get that. But as a content creator, I've always been very, very straight with the people watching my videos. I actually like that. I'm good. I'm good with that. I think that's a good thing. I think that's good that I give you all the information. So I've given you the reasons why many people don't like Zack Snyder's Rebel Moon movies, apart from the people that were going to hate his work, whatever he does, right? Even if he made the 10 Commandments, people would still say it's so Snyder, it's so crap, right? Forget them. They mean nothing. But the people who genuinely don't like those movies have good reasons for not liking them, because you can't slimline a 6-hour fucking movie. It's impossible. But Zack Snyder had to bend the knee with these 2-hour movies, otherwise Netflix wouldn't have allowed him to make his 2, 6-hour movies, or however long the second movie is going to be as well. Very excited to see those, those original cuts, not director's cuts. A director's cut is kind of some scenes we didn't see in the first movie. This is the original cut. What you're going to see with these cuts is how the films were supposed to be viewed in the first place. Do you get it? I am being very, very honest and direct. I'm giving you all the pieces. I'm giving you all the information. So now you know. Mick didn't really like Rebel Moon Part 2, The Scargiver. Mick really enjoyed the third act and the action. He saw what Zack Snyder was trying to do with the emotional elements, like with Nemesis and the blonde kid and all of that. I get it, but because the movie's been slimlined, right? And we're not seeing how the movie was supposed to be viewed, it looks like a movie full of padding and filler in the first act, and then the great action in the third act. Do you get me? I'm being honest with you. I'm not just coming here saying, Zack Snyder is crap, this is not a good film, you shouldn't see it, blah, 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 blah. No. I'm giving you all the information you need to know. Whether you want to go and see this movie or not is then up to you. That's the job of a critic. And I'm not even a fucking critic. I'm just someone on YouTube who presses record and says the first thing that comes to his head. But they're not giving you that information. They're not being critics. We used to have some wonderful critics. People like Barry Norman, if you're British and you remember him. People with genuine love for film, but were honest with their reviews, whether they liked something or not. Barry Norman hated blockbusters, but he gave the first Star Wars a great write-up. He gave, Back to the Future a great write-up. He was honest about what he saw. What you've got to do with a review, an honest review, is, tell people what the movie, the reasons why the movie's being made, what the story's attempting to do. Then not tell them or advise them that they were either successful at doing it or not. Basically, you watch the movie and then you judge it for yourself on its merits. Not whether or not the hair was long enough or there was enough representation and inclusion on the art, on the storytelling. And if you want to bring in the lighting and the camera angles and the cinematography, you can do that as well. Because people are very interested in good or not so good cinematography today. Unfortunately, most cinematography these days is just pressing a button. That's what it is, right? They've got the best cameras, best everything. You'd expect great cinematography. And when you don't get it, you'd be disappointed because it's easy these days. You don't actually have to have a good eye. You don't actually have to know what you're doing to create great cinematography. It's true. Back in the day, back in the 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, even early noughties, you had to be a good director. Personally, I like directors who bring in additional cinematographers. I'm not really a fan of directors being their own cinematographer because there's a bias there and you need someone to step away from the director's mentality to give you the great cinematography. Now, the director is going to have their opinion on how that cinematography should be photographed, but I think you need to step away from it a little bit as a director. So they're not doing their jobs properly. They're not informing you like a critic should do. And this is why the review system is the way it is. That's why the Rotten Tomatoes system is so corrupt. Michael Rosenbaum, the actor who played Lex Luthor, does his podcast with Tom Welling. And they review an episode of Smallville. And he was saying how he hates the Rotten Tomatoes system. And that's why I'm doing this video, because he reminded me how much I hate modern day entertainment and how I hate modern day critics, whether it's TV streaming or films. They're disingenuous. But the truth of the matter is, and the worst truth of the matter is, they are working for the very industry they're supposed to be critiquing. And that, on those parameters, that can't work one little bit. A critic should be unbiased. Your review isn't about whether you liked something or not. You are well within your rights to say to me, I didn't like this movie. But then you've got to tell me why you didn't like it. But that's just your opinion. That's just your opinion. You should be telling me what the film does and what it doesn't do. Not in your opinion, in what you've seen. And that's the problem today. That is the big problem with critics today. You can't just have a review where you say to me, I didn't like this and this is why. No. I can't make an informed decision about a movie and a TV show based on your likes or dislikes. Art is subjective, right? So when people went to see The Last Jedi, and some people hated it and some people liked it and defended it, the job of the critic there, before everyone sees it, because a movie like Star Wars, right, has preconceived ideas of what they should get and what they shouldn't get, right? So as a critic, now all the critics, most of them, the verified critics, gave The Last Jedi full marks, great movie, best Star Wars movie ever. You know, audacious, ridiculous statements like that. But they didn't judge it on its merits. They should have told you what the film is attempting to do. It's trying to take a beloved male character and make him unlikable and immoral and a coward. And to say, yes, what Rian Johnson is attempting to do here is saying, this man, when he was young, was a gallant hero, but he's become bitter and twisted and old. Like what happens naturally to a lot of people once they get older. They get tired, they get fed up, they get cynical. That's what Jake Skywalker is in The Last Jedi. He's literally Jake Skywalker because he's an old dude who's not youthful. He hasn't got the energy. He's angry. Bad things have happened. And he's not the hero he once was, sadly. Now, that's not the story Star Wars fans wanted. They wanted a Luke Skywalker they've read in a lot of the fan novels, right? Where he's running a Jedi Academy and he's training new Jedis and there's a new threat and he leads his Jedis, you know, and things like that. That's what everyone wanted to see. We wanted to see Han, Leia and Luke on screen together. We wanted a sequel trilogy that celebrates Star Wars, right? And Rian Johnson said, no, I'm going to tell a story about a guy who used to be a hero, but now he's bitter, he's angry, he's cynical, which happens to a lot of us once we get older, and no one can deny that. But nobody wanted to see that story, and we could discuss this all day, whether we should give people what they want or what a filmmaker feels is, their vision and their story. We always argue about creative freedom, but when we see creative freedom from people like Johnson and Snyder, then we complain. Do we want people to have creative freedom, or do we want them to be our servants, our entertainment servants? It's very interesting, isn't it? And I don't think there's a right or a wrong here. But that's what Rian Johnson was attempting to do. And the reviews never told us that, never told you that. Rian Johnson is making a story about a once hero who became tired and old and bitter and cynical. That's the story he's trying to tell. It's not the story that Star Wars fans wanted. That's the point. It's not the story that I wanted. But I wasn't angry with The Last Jedi. I was bored and underwhelmed. Johnson visually created a brilliant Star Wars movie. Visually, it looks great, personally. But in terms of narratively, it bored me. I didn't like what he did to Skywalker, but I was more kind of bored and kind of underwhelmed and disappointed in Rian for not making, let's say, an entertaining, interesting movie. And it wasn't interesting because all the moving pieces in his narrative that he used weren't executed to be an interesting story. Because you could write a story about a Luke Skywalker who's old and cynical. A kind of Dark Knight Returns. Isn't that what Batman and Bruce Wayne is in The Dark Knight Returns? He's older, he's cynical, but he decides to pick up the mantle again. That story is done in the right way, where you can still believe in the hero, but still realistically see that he's older. And he's a little bit more tired and he can't do things the way he used to do them. But Johnson really, by telling this story, because he is an extreme leftist, let's not get it twisted, as most of them are working in Hollywood today, and he wanted to show you that men are not good. And he really wanted to tear down this once great white male hero. That's what he was attempting to do. That was the whole motivations of the whole piece. But the critics didn't tell you. They misinformed you and just said, yeah, it's a great Star Wars movie, you're going to love it. That, as I've already said, isn't the job of a critic, because they are serving their overlords in the entertainment industry, because they're access media. They want to continue getting access. It's a vicious circle, everyone. And this is the problem. This is why they need to be policed. This is why the entertainment industry needs to be policed by its government in the United States. And it's not. Because Hollywood has because it's always made so much money for America, they've allowed them to do whatever they want. How can you be a verified critic and not be held up to standards that they used to be held to? They're not held to those standards anymore. There's nobody policing the entertainment industry, not really. And there's no one policing verified critics. They can do and say whatever they want. These people are so heavily corrupt now that they told you if you went to see a Joker movie, you could get shot and killed. But we are the toxic fans, apparently. We are the problem, apparently. Is there anything more toxic than telling your audience that if you go and watch a film, you could get shot and killed? Thankfully, nobody fucking believed them. But they could have encouraged a maniac to go and shoot people in a cinema. They got away with it. They weren't arrested, they weren't charged, they didn't lose their verified critic badge. They didn't lose their journalist badge. They didn't lose their access. They weren't questioned by police. Because let's be honest about it, I'm no friend of Donald Trump, but didn't they do what he did? With the January the 6th situation, they've accused, right, Donald Trump of inciting what happened on January the 6th. And maybe if he kept his fucking mouth shut, and was a good loser after the election, that would never have happened. But Hillary Clinton was just as bad, right? Accusing that the previous election she lost with Russian interference. Bad losers, bad losers. She could have incited a riot as well. Luckily, she didn't. But if you're going to accuse Donald Trump, and I agree, on some level, he did incite what happened, right? You must also say that critics and access media could have incited a riot, incited a bunch of maniacs to kill a bunch of innocent people in a cinema, because that's what they were warning. With no evidence, they were saying an incel could go to the cinema and shoot and kill you if you go to the cinema. Why? Because that film was against their ideology. It's the very thing I was talking about at the beginning of the video. If you don't tick the boxes of these people's ideology, political ideology, then you've made a bad movie. They try to accuse Todd Phillips of making excuses for men that kill. That's not what the movie was doing. You wasn't watching it, but you wanted Todd Phillips to do what New Hollywood do all the time and create, negative propaganda against straight white males. And because he didn't do that, because he showed us the full picture, the man is mentally ill. They take away his medication that controls his mental illness. He can't talk to his psyche anymore. So this is a fully rounded circle of his life, right? That doesn't justify the man doing what he does, right? He's still got a decision to make. But you accused Todd Phillips of something that simply wasn't true. And even worse, because you thought the film was against your ideology, you could have incited something terrible to happen. This is your access media. This is your modern day critics. And they are utterly corrupt, and they are utterly obsessed with their own, political ideology, like Hollywood is themselves. Hollywood is based in LA, California, right? Most of the journalists who talk to you about entertainment are also based in California, LA, a place with a derivative, extremist political view. And they use these views when they're talking about actors, when they're talking about directors, when they're talking about films. Access media are trying to convince you that we are in the bestest era of the entertainment industry and Hollywood ever. They're trying to convince you that the film star isn't dead. Tell me, which actor would you like to meet? Because I wouldn't like to meet any of them. I wasn't alive in the 30s, but you think about Grace Kelly, you think about all the great actors, Judy Garland, who I'm absolutely in love with, all these people, they were untouchable. These lot today are not untouchable. They're there and they're not that big a deal. And I've said it before, the directors around today, the actors around today, the producers around today, as not as good or as talented as they once was. You can live in denial. Box office is down this weekend, right? Really low. It's another, 2 weekends in a row that the box office is low. People are blaming cinema prices. Now, the prices could be cheaper, but it's the lack of quality in the industry today and the political ideology and the mindset in every film that they make today. So when a critic reviews a movie, they're trying to convince you that something special is happening. Civil War is a great example where they try and create a talking point. Why, they're saying, well, why are people saying it's bad that, this director hasn't picked a political side? I agree, he didn't have to pick a political side. It's just not a very interesting movie. And it's a waste of time. It's a waste of your time and it's a waste of my time. That's what modern day entertainment is. But these days, we're not talking about the critics that existed 30, 40, 50 years ago, who were actually there to inform you with facts, give you the facts, and then you decide whether you should go and consume a piece of entertainment or not. It's become a lot more, underhanded and desperate, because they're desperate to get you in the cinema, for you to put your streaming service on or turn on your television, because they're losing viewers upon viewers upon viewers. And instead of changing how they do things, how they write things, how they review things, they're just doing the same things again, again, and again.